Hello, it's Chrispy, and I have a special book that I will be reading to you so you can follow along. You can watch me read. You can put the phone down while you're driving. You can listen to this right before you go to bed or during your free time. This is during the coronavirus, so there's lots of time for me to do this. I am working half days as a preschool first responder teacher, so when the day is done around noon, I am back here to read a little bit for you. So this is a book that, uh, without further ado, Frozen 2, The Enchanted Forest. Now, as a preschool teacher, you can only imagine that Frozen, Elsa, Anna, Sven, Olaf, and all the crew are very, very popular to all the kids. So I thought it'd be really special to read this. We'll read it in chapters and for the videos. So I might read 3 or 4 chapters and then we'll continue the next day or the next few days. Okay? All right, let's dive in. Chapter 1. It was early, and the light that came before the sun rose was just beginning to color the sky. The group had been walking through the night and were grateful to see that the new day was about to begin. Elsa carried an ice crystal, powered by her magic. The crystal lit the way as Anna, Kristoff, Olaf, and Sven followed behind her. Olaf yawned. Tired from being out all night with his friends, the snowman rode on Sven's antlers. "Are we almost there?" he asked sleepily. "Yes, I think so," said the brawny Kristoff. "The farm should be just a little farther past this bend." Farmer Anders, who knew Kristoff well, had immediately offered his wagon for the journey when he realized it was still not safe for them to return to Arendelle for their own. The group followed the path as it curled around the hills and the cliffs above the village. They paused at a ridge, stopped by the sight of Arendelle, oddly quiet below. The unsettling view sent a shiver down Anna's spine, and she pulled her mother's scarf tightly around her shoulders. In that moment, the young princess was especially grateful to have it. The treasured scarf always seemed to give her a warm wave of comfort. "It's so eerie," said Olaf, staring down at the deserted kingdom. They all agreed. It was strange seeing Arendelle so lifeless. It seemed like only moments before, instead of hours, that an unseen force had driven the terrified villagers out of their homes and up to the cliffs. The villagers could not return until they figured out what was going on. Right now, it was far too dangerous. "So, is the kingdom still a kingdom without anyone in it?" Olaf asked. "If there's a queen and a princess and a friendly snowman and a reindeer and a guy who talks to rocks and talks to reindeers, looking at an eerie, empty kingdom, is that still a kingdom? I'm beginning to feel extremely uncertain about reality." "Don't worry, Olaf," said Elsa. The queen, Olaf had mentioned, "I'm going to fix this, and everyone will be able to go home. Arendelle will be just fine." Elsa kept walking, looking out into the distance. She turned to Kristoff. "Is that the farm?" He caught up to her and nodded, letting out a small sigh. "A bit farther than I remembered, but yes, that's it." Elsa picked up her pace as they continued along the rocky path. Although she appeared calm, she was eager to get all that they needed and began their journey. It wasn't only about fixing everything for Arendelle and the kingdom's people. There was also the voice. It had started as a whisper, a single note of song, and that she could never quite pinpoint. She wasn't sure why, but she wasn't certain she needed to follow the sound of the voice. She didn't hear it at the moment, but she knew she would hear it again, for some reason that she couldn't put words to. She trusted the voice. It had helped her tap into a new part of herself and expand her power in unexpected ways. She wondered if there was even more for her to discover. It was strange when the voice had first called to her. Elsa had tried to ignore it. She didn't understand. Why can no one else hear it? She thought. Is it possible that it is coming from someone magical like me? None of the explanations she came up with made sense, so Elsa tried to convince herself that she imagined hearing it, or that the voice was just inside her head. But it had continued calling to her at unexpected moments, begging her to find it. Earlier that night, the voice had awakened Elsa from her sleep. It had taken her a moment to clear the dreams from her head, but once she sat straight up. Anna was sleeping soundly next to her, so Elsa had been careful as she sneaked out of the room. The voice continued. She followed it down the deserted hallways of the castle and out the back door. It seemed only grow louder and clearer as her feet touched the ground beyond the village. Unable to stay silent any longer, Elsa used her powerful voice and answered. She sang a single pure note, and something inside her shifted. She felt a connection to the voice that she had never felt before. Tentatively, Elsa reached out with her magic. Incredible things sprang from her fingertips. She created an entire life-size forest from snow. The deeper into the forest she wandered, the more amazed she became. With every move of her hand and every turn of her twist, something new appeared. A swirling wind and a salamander, a water horse, and a giant creatures throwing boulders. Elsa's feet quickened. As she followed the creatures that had sprung from her magic, she wanted to memorize what they looked like. She also wanted to follow them. She wanted to know where they were going. The deeper she went into the forest of ice, the louder and more urgent the voice got. Elsa knew something was about to happen, but she had gone as far as she could. The deep waters of the fjord stood before her and kept her from reaching the voice. Elsa refocused her magic and created a wedge of ice on which she could move out over the fjord. She continued until something told her she had gone far enough. As the voice began to fade, Elsa reached out for it, trying to bring it back. She stood looking up at the sky, her arms at her sides, and released all her energy into the air. This caused a shock wave to blast across the fjord and to turn the air's moisture into ice crystals. The crystals spread out as far as she could see, hovering in place like frozen raindrops. She couldn't hold back a smile when she realized that crystals were the result of her magical power. Elsa noticed something special about the crystals. Each one was etched with a symbol she recognized. The symbols represented the spirits of nature: air, fire, water, and earth. Without warning, a flash of light exploded into the sky from the north. Elsa knew the brilliance was too widespread to have been lightning, and there had been no accompanying thunder. She wondered if the light was a response to her blast of power. As the light in the north faded, the ice crystals cascaded from the sky, falling in waves like dominoes, and as they dropped to the ground, Arendelle transformed. Water stopped flowing in the fountains. Animal troughs dried up, and the kingdom went dark as the fire vanished from all the lanterns. The wind whipped. Get a little water or something to soothe the throat here. Water stopped flowing in the fountains. Animal troughs dried up, and the kingdom went dark as the fire vanished from all the lanterns. The wind whispered angrily through windows and around corners, and the ground rippled like the sea. Those two things combined pushed everyone out of their homes and out of the kingdom and up to the safety and stability of the cliffs. Kristoff's voice brought Elsa's attention back to the present. They had reached the farm. "The wagon's in the back, behind the house," Kristoff said. "Farmer Anders said we could borrow any supplies we need from the barn. Why don't you two look in there while we go get the wagon ready?" The girls nodded. Oh, and see if you can find some carrots. Then he led Sven, with Olaf still riding on his antlers, toward the back of the farm. Anna and Elsa entered the barn and looked around. Anna's eyes landed on a big old satchel hanging on a nearby hook. Oh, perfect, she said, picking it up. She immediately placed a couple of carrots inside. As the girls collected a few more items they thought they would need, Anna kept a close eye on Elsa. As much as she trusted and believed in her sister, Anna was worried. The wise old troll, Grandpappy, had given Anna a secret warning after she and the others had helped evacuate Arendelle, and she couldn't stop thinking about it. After the chaos in the village, Elsa had told Anna and Kristoff about the voice that had been calling to her. Then she asked if she could borrow a wagon so she could travel to the Enchanted Forest. Anna and Kristoff had refused to let Elsa go on the trip alone. If she was determined to go, then they were going with her. Also, they wanted to know more about the voice. Before Elsa had time to get into more of the details, Grandpappy and the mountain trolls had rolled their round, rock-like bodies through the pass, popping open as they neared the group. Pappy had told them that he knew the spirits were awake. He could feel it. He could also feel that they were angry. Reaching up, he waved his hand around, stirring the blues and greens of the northern lights, making them brighter as he reached for answers. But it was all very mysterious, even to the wise old troll. Much about the past is not what it seems, he had said. A dark secret is buried too deep for me. A wrong demands resolution. Without it, I see no future. Then he had looked at Elsa urgently. When one can see no future, all one can do is the next right thing. Elsa had insisted that she knew the right thing to do. She had to go to the Enchanted Forest. Oh, there's a picture. There you go. Oh, I don't know what that noise is. And find the voice. She believed it was trying to help her. If she could follow it, she could fix things. She could bring the elements back to Arendelle, and she could help banish the mist from the Enchanted Forest. Grandpappy and Anna had paused at Elsa's confidence. Neither had ever seen her so certain of herself before. Grandpappy told Elsa that she had to make sure that she was prepared. The spirits are powerful, and they will change you every step of the way, he had said. He had agreed to watch over the people of Arendelle while she and her group journeyed north to the forest. Then he had secretly pulled her sister aside. Anna, he said, I am worried for her. We have always feared that Elsa's powers were too much for this world. Now we must pray they are enough. Anna had vowed to stay by Elsa's side no matter what. The clop of Sven's hooves and the turn of the wagon wheels against the ground shook the girls from their thoughts. Elsa turned to face Anna. Are you ready? She asked. Anna took off her mother's scarf and put it deep inside the satchel to keep it safe. Yes, she said. She followed her sister, determined to protect her at any cost. Sip. Oh, phone's getting low on energy. All right, let's see if we can get chapter 2. Chapter 2, Kristoff adjusted Sven's harness while Olaf sat excitedly in the back of the wagon, making himself comfortable in a pile of hay. When's the last time we went on a road trip together, he asked. This is exciting, and I've never been to an enchanted forest before, let alone the Enchanted Forest. It sounds both magical and delightful. How long will it take us to get there? Well, it will probably take us quite a while, Olaf. Anna said, climbing into the wagon beside him. Our father said the enchanted forest is as north as we can go. She looked over at Elsa and smiled. Remember? Of course I do, said Elsa, sitting down on the other side of Olaf. What little Anna and Elsa knew about the enchanted forest was from their father. Though they hadn't heard him tell the story since they were children, both girls remembered it well. It had memorized them and become one of their most cherished memories. Their father, King Agnar, had always told the story the same way. Far away, as north as we can go, once stood an enchanted forest, protected by the spirits of air, fire, water, and earth. And there roamed a nomadic people called the Northuldra, who relied upon those spirits. It went on about how the spirits of nature lived in harmony with the Northuldra. Once, when the kingdom of Arendelle was young and its inhabitants had put down roots on the shores of the Arnfjord, soon after the Arendalians met the Northuldra had seemed to welcome their new neighbors, and as a gift the Arendalians built a great dam to connect all their lands. By bringing in the wide river, the dam created a safe place for the Northuldra and their reindeer to cross. It was a symbol of peace. The spirits of the enchanted forest remained content, and all was well until the battle. Thoughts of their father's story were interrupted as Kristoff climbed into the front of the wagon and grabbed Sven's reins. All right, he said, everybody ready? Even though the sun was now barely over the horizon, its light was already reaching across the dark landscape, dispelling the shadows. Early as it was, Sven took off, pulling the wagon northward. The leaves that had been painted with the morning light decorated everything in the bright reds, oranges, and purples. It was another beautiful autumn day. Who's into trivia? Asked Olaf, settling in. I am, okay. As the journey started, he rambled on, sharing facts and theories. Ever since he'd learned to read, he was almost never without a book. Did you know that bees have an extra stomach? One of them is used to carry around nectar. Interesting, said Anna. And sort of disgusting. I know, said Olaf cheerfully. He continued chatting away. Did you know that moonbows are just like rainbows, only they use moonlight instead of sunlight? Did you know that many animals use their tails for balance, but also as a blanket? But not Sven. His tail isn't good for balance or a blanket. Sven grunted in a disagreement. Ugh. Okay. Oh, it's okay, buddy. Your tail's good for lots of other things, Olaf assured him. It wasn't long before the bright sun was high in the sky, shining down on them. Olaf sighed happily and leaned his head back on his twig arms for a moment. Here's a picture. Looks like them all together in a wagon. Arendelle in the background, perhaps. Enjoying the feel of the warm sun on his face. I love my new permafrost, he said. He had been thoroughly enjoying Elsa's new gift to him, which allowed him plenty of time for lounging in the sunshine. He no longer needed his personal snow flurry to keep him from melting. Did you know that the sun is just really, really, really a big star? Olaf quickly began shouting out facts again. Did you know that storm clouds are called cumulonimbus? Nimbus? He looked up into the sky. Glad we don't see any of those now. The thin and wispy ones are called cirrus. And we don't see any of those either. Actually, we don't see any clouds, do we? It is a really nice day, huh? Uh-huh, said Anna, forcing a smile through clenched teeth. Olaf's chattering was starting to make her head ache. Did you know that water has memory? Said Olaf. True fact. It's disputed, but true. Olaf continued to rattle on, and by the time they saw Elsa's ice palace, the sun was beginning to set, sparkling against the north mountain. Oh, too bad we don't have time to stop and say hello to Marshmallow and the rest of my little brothers, said Olaf, sitting up and gazing at the palace. I wonder if they're home. Is it Wednesday? I think they're doing book club on Wednesday now. Or is it a knitting social? Can't remember. Olaf turned away from the scenery and re-engaged with his companions in the wagon. Okay, back to trivia. Everyone winced as he continued. Did you know men are 6 times more likely to be struck by lightning? Sorry, Kristoff. He reached out a twig arm and patted Kristoff on the shoulder. Kristoff forced a laugh. I think maybe it's time for the quiet game, he suggested. His cheeks were a little red and his voice sounded mechanical. Out of all the games that I had tried, that one sounds like it would be my least favorite, Olaf said brightly. The ice palace disappeared over the ridge behind them. As the little snowman continued, did you know gorillas burp when they're happy? Did you know we blink 4 million times a day? And wombats poop squares? And donkeys sink, but mules don't? Kristoff couldn't take it anymore. Did you know sleeping quietly on long journeys prevents murderous insanity? That doesn't sound true, said Olaf with a giggle. Elsa and Anna quickly added, it's true, it's absolutely true. Well, you're the grown-ups, you know, said Olaf. Then he yawned and cuddled between the girls, finally ready for a little nap. He soon fell asleep, and Elsa waved her arms, creating a blanket of ice for him. She made sure to tuck in all the edges. I'm tired too, said Elsa. Night had fallen, and the motion of the wagon was making her sleepy. Take a rest, said Anna. Here. She pulled their mother's scarf from the satchel and draped it over Elsa, comforting her instantly. Ah, thank you. Elsa happily wrapped the scarf around her body, relaxing beneath it. But Anna didn't feel tired. Once Elsa drifted off to sleep, she began to fret about something else. The villagers. She couldn't help thinking of them, stuck up on the cliffs, away from their homes. She knew the trolls would keep them safe, but she wondered how comfortable they would be. However, there were more immediate things to worry about. Trying to push the villagers to the back of her mind, Anna climbed up front and sat beside Kristoff. They're both asleep, she said. Hope our people are able to sleep. Suddenly her eyes went wide. Oh no, do you think Mrs. Latham has her medication and Mr. Hilton is always losing his teeth? Don't worry, said Kristoff. I'm sure whatever they need, Oaken will have it and overcharge them for it. Anna smiled appreciatively. You know, it's been amazing watching you care for Arendelle, Kristoff said, looking over at her with pride and love. I'd do anything for Arendelle, Anna said earnestly. Sven, keep us steady, will ya? Sven gave a supportive grunt, and Kristoff let go of the reins. He hadn't told anybody but Sven yet, but he had a secret. He was planning to ask Anna to marry him. He had tried once before, but it hadn't worked out. He had even managed to get down on one knee at the castle, and yet Anna had been so concerned about Elsa that she didn't even see him behind her. So he had decided he would wait patiently until the timing felt completely right, and this moment felt just about as right as any. I want to ask you something, said Kristoff, turning toward Anna again. It's about us. Oh no, said Anna with worried frown. What did I do? Kristoff was surprised by her question. What? I mean, you said it yourself. When it comes to love, I haven't had the best judgment, but I said that? Kristoff interrupted, confused. When I almost married a man I just met who did turn out to be a murderous lunatic, said Anna. Oh, right. Yeah, Kristoff agreed. I said that. Kristoff didn't notice as Elsa suddenly sat up, looking around. He reached into his pocket. Well, that's in the past. I'm talking about the future. Kristoff, stop, please, said Elsa. At first, he thought she wanted him to stop talking. I can't stop the future, he said. But one look at her face made Kristoff grab the reins and guide Sven to a halt. I hear it, Elsa said. I hear the voice. Oh, All right, well, that's 2 chapters. We are going to pick up another time. So thanks for tuning in, and we'll catch you later. If you like this reading, please subscribe, share the Crispy Patty channel to help support the cause of inspiration, entertainment, and education. All right, take care. Bye.